good to start. Couple of ground rules for those of you who are new here. So you're more than welcome to ask any of your questions, right? If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. That's what we're really here all about. We want to help you to learn new skills, to answer your questions to best of our ability, of course. But one prior ground rule is please send them in the Q&A section. It's just going to be easier for us to afterwards find them and reply to them, because it's very easy to miss questions in just the regular chat, right? Because sometimes a lot of people start typing at the same time, so it's easy to miss things. So Q&A section allows us to kind of follow through a little bit easier. So if you have anything, just make sure you post them there. Other than that, if there's anything that you decide that you wanted to ask, but you were just too shy to ask it on the live webinar itself, so you just want to ask it us afterwards, you can always do that. There is an email dedicated to this sort of communication, and that's webinars@zoomcharts.com, or you can also post your questions in the FP20 Analytics LinkedIn group. So wherever you guys want, you can try to reach out to us, right? If one channel doesn't work, find the next one. That's how usually life works as well, right? If one door closes, find the next one until you're getting kicked out of it. But if there's anything you guys need, just reach out to us. That's the main idea here. And the session itself is recorded. So if you have to, leave at some point of time, life is life, we can't control everything. Or if you know somebody who wasn't able to attend the session, or you just want to rewatch it afterwards when it's convenient to you, you will have availability to access the recording. I think usually it's like 1 or 2 days after the actual webinar when we send it to you, and you're going to have a link to where you can watch it afterwards. So that's also available. But yeah.
There is a very, very soon question. Sunny,
Sure.
I'm sending you some here on the chat. Copy and paste in some Word document, but you have some information about what you are asking. Because CRM, Sunny, actually, what I sent you explained very well. That comes from the owner of the dataset. Okay, and it gives you a kind of togetherness of the processes and what you can expect and what you cannot expect. Okay.
And the one other thing that I would highly recommend is, guys, do not forget that the Excel file that you download where the data set is, one of the sheets is dictionary. The dictionary tells you exactly what each of those columns represents. And please read those descriptions, because it also has additional information. Like, for example, one of the things that you're going to notice is, let's say, if I quickly share my screen, I want to answer this question, and then there's one more that actually can be answered through one of the topics that we wanted to discuss, Federico.
Yeah.
So the way, or what I was talking about is, where do I have the Excel file now? Of course I can't find it whenever I quickly need it, right? There we go. Let's quickly open it up. And that's not the right one. It happens whenever you want to try to do something fast, right? So let's go to downloads. CRM Sales, Excel, this one is the right one. So in the zip folder that you can download, you're going to have these two files, right? One of them is going to be the Excel file. The other one is going to be a PDF. Within the PDF, you sort of have a so-called cheat sheet, which allows you to look at what sort of native visuals can be replaced with one of Zoom Charts visuals, just so you have an idea, right? Especially if you're new to everything. So that's a good cheat sheet to have. The other thing is going to be the actual Excel file, which is the data set basically for the challenge. And like I said, one of the sheets is going to be dictionary. And one thing that I want to emphasize on, and for you guys to take a look at this, is when you have status and stage, please read how they are different and what is the connection between them, right? They're connected, and you have to understand how they're connected in order to create some of the visualizations, right? Because everything that as soon as it gets to status opportunity has its own separate stage. But if the deal itself is new, just added, it doesn't have a stage, for example. So you just need to understand the logic of how things are getting structured. And the reason why we're always usually going with these sort of dictionaries and trying this approach with different columns, different connections, and so forth is trust me, that's what you're probably going to have in real life data sets as well. 90% of the time when you get a real life data set, it's not going to be as clean as you would expect it to be.
Not only
There's
that,
going to
you
be,
might get
yeah,
you might get a data set without any data dictionary. I am a consultant, work for a company doing different projects, and I don't know every single analysis, if we put it that way. So sometimes you have to go online and ask our friend ChatGPT, can you tell me a little bit about CRM, or Google, can you show me a report on basket analysis or any other business intelligence or whatever you need to research is very, very important in every report you do. That doesn't mean that you have to spend too much time doing research when you are doing or you are participating in challenges, but it's something that I recommend for you to do. And better than expect for me to tell you, because I might have the same problem that you, that I don't know or I haven't done previously a report on CRM. Okay, so that is part of the game, guys. That is part of the instruction. Today we are analyzing CRM and pipelines. Tomorrow is business intelligence. The day after we are exploring sport data. Okay, and we need to actually think about, okay, how do I tackle that and what ideas I can bring to the table. I'm gonna look for them. I'm gonna get the ideas I want to, and I'm going to work on that. Don't expect everything to be given to you, because in work they're not gonna give nothing to you. Yeah. Remember that, and remember, Federico, they are not gonna give nothing to you. A lot of the things we hear in theory, that ask the question you want to the client, they will provide you with the KPI. Not happen. Don't not happen. You're gonna have to do a lot of work of your imagination, and then start moving and changing stuff. They can see also what is going on and tell you more information. So get ready for that. And I think the challenges give you that possibility to say, okay, I have never done a CRM report. Let's do a couple of checks. Okay, that is my data. I can do this, and that is the approach I'm going to take.
Yep. So one of the things as well is whenever you get a data set or a challenge, and actually Emmanuel had a question, where do we get the data set? So one of the places where you can get the data set is in the challenge page itself. And once you register right here on the left-hand side, so I'm going to quickly register as a participant, which of course I'm not allowed to be a participant, right, based on the rules and everything, but hey, I need to showcase how to get the data set. So here we go. You can get the data set once you register. The other place where you can get the data set is on the FP20 Analytics side.
I put it there on the chat.
Yeah, so whichever you prefer, you can go for that, get the data set, and then go afterwards. If for whatever reason, let's say you cannot download it from our website, you cannot download it from FP20 Analytics, like I said, link it in. Reach out to either us or any for like one of the organizing team from Zoom Charts, or to Federico directly. We're gonna sort it out, right? Things happen, things get bugged out. It's what it is, right? We're not gonna tell you that everything's gonna be perfect. No, you can't really do that.
Fantastic.
But yeah, you can get the data set here. And the other thing is what Federico already mentioned, right? A lot of the times you don't really get everything straight away, which is why if you go under the brief, this is the reason why we give you some of the pointers of what we recommend you to take a look at. It doesn't mean you have to answer every single one of these questions. No, these are just some questions that you might take a closer look into. If you decide that some of these, okay, are interesting, but you want to enhance it with something from your own side, you're more than welcome to do that. Every single time whenever we host these webinars, me and Federico are going to tell you the same. If you have a way on how to enhance the current data set, go for it. We're more than happy to see what you can do with it, because the main idea about all of these challenges, and yeah, all the data challenges, is to increase your level of capabilities, right? To learn new skills, to see what other people are doing and get some inspiration from that, for example. It's all about creating something new.
And
right?
I want to make, you read the question, sure. It's like, what should your report include? Should doesn't mean you have to.
Yes, that's the key word.
Just pick up, exactly. Should doesn't mean you have to reply to all the questions. It means that if you want to, you can use this question as a base for your report.
Of course.
If you don't, you say, yes, carry on.
So what I was saying is, for example, if you look at the data, right, we have organizations, countries, like location information, sizes, deal values, probabilities, but we don't have any targets, for example. And whenever it comes to some sort of sales, there's probably a target at the end that you have to meet. That's one of the sections that you can go and be creative. Whether you do this based on a certain region or whatever it is, create the targets, right? We're not telling you cannot do that. That's completely okay to do so. Just make the data set more interesting. And how to do that, that's up to you. And it's the same thing as Federico mentioned, right? In some of the cases, the theory is going to tell you, and we've told you this also multiple times, ask questions to the customers, get all the KPIs that you need to create. It's all good in theory, but in practice, a lot of the times, they don't really know what they need. They're going to tell you, well, when we want to see our sales data analyzed, and you're like, okay, what do you want to see? Well, it could be this, it could be that. So what you end up doing is just either it's ChatGPT, or you just start Googling typical KPIs for sales dashboards. And then you try to see, okay, what sort of data do I have? What more data could I ask from them? And you try to create something from all of that information. It isn't really, it's almost never the case where you have everything straight away accessible to you. Like the one thing I usually say is, if you come across a certain situation where you have everything already prepared for you, I truly envy you, because that usually doesn't happen.
Oh, it doesn't happen for me. No. Okay, there is another question. Any pointer on how to improve on UI UX skill for a report? I'm gonna show you in a minute, very soon, something about it. Okay, so I don't know, Das. I'm going to call you Das because I cannot pronounce your first name. Apologies. In a minute, your question will be replied.
Yeah. What else? But yeah, go through the brief, get some ideas of what you could answer. Make sure you also go through the judging criteria so you know what we're looking for whenever we're looking at the reports itself. Make sure you utilize all the resources that are available to you. And one of the things that I usually emphasize on here is, remember, you have the possibility of going through previous challenges and just seeing, okay, what the contestants have created, what sort of layouts they used, what sort of analysis. We never encourage you to copy paste. No, that's a very bad practice. And trust me, we can easily spot that. But just get some inspiration of how people are, for example, creating navigation systems, how they're creating guided tours if they are. Just some interesting elements which you haven't done previously. Try to enhance that, like we said, right? That's the main idea about all of these challenges. It's a possibility for you to enhance your skills, not just do repetitive work. We're doing repetitive work, most of us, already in everyday jobs, so why do it in a challenge, right? Do something more interesting.
Yes, try. One of the ways I actually go a little bit better about UI UX and my analysis was actually trying something different every time. Okay, I have copy ideas, but I have never replicated the idea in the same way. So there are plenty of reports out there that are quite good. Look at them and see what you can do to do something about it. Didi, I will call you Didi from now on. Thank you. So we are 20 minutes. So I'm going to share. I don't know if I am able to do that.
Should be too.
Yeah, I'm terrible at this.
Just for the sake of it, let's try. I'm going to turn off my screen share.
Yeah, but why? I cannot see what I want to see. Okay. You see, Tim have done something really good. Okay, I'm here now. Share. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, my screen is there, so you are going to see me looking at that. It's because I can't work on there. If I go here up, their background, when I'm bored, I start doing some background. Okay? because Saturday and Sunday I don't feel like doing any more Power BI after work. I decide to do some template, some background. Okay, and that is Figma. And people say, oh, Figma is difficult. Remember, we only use Figma to do template, background. I don't need to know anything more about the functionality of Figma. Okay, and I copied the idea for Pinterest or any other places you can see. Yes. And they are quite little looking. So yeah, but that look like, Federico, is difficult to create. Well, let me tell you how difficult it is to create this. Let me do this. Normally, that bar will be 80. Okay? I'm going to get another, that for my title, like whatever you want to. I'm going to get another one here. I'm going to put it to the corner, and here I'm going to say -20. That should be okay there. Okay, and I'm going to give you about 150. Let's see, 150. And I'm going to round the corner to 10. Okay, now from here, I want 4 KPIs. Okay, that is my idea. 4 KPIs with the information. Remember, you need to have in your head what you are going to represent in Power BI. So there are plenty of tools or plugins in Figma that allow you to do this. Okay, column is 1, row now column is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, row is 1, and I do that. Ya tengo my first KPI. Okay, I'm gonna get another one, and this one is gonna go from that top to that top and down here, and I want this to be 2. Plugin, split shape. Now I want 2 columns. Sorry, 1 column, 2 rows. Split. I got another one there, and I'm gonna do the same, guys. But this one I'm gonna break it in 2, but vertically. Doing it this way, you don't have to worry about the distance between the object. The gutter is 20. So columns, I want 2 columns and 1 row. There you go, guys. Now it's just a matter of giving some font, entering some icon or whatever, and giving some color. You go a background template, create it in 2 minutes. As simple as that. Okay, so remember, it's not complex. It's a matter of you don't like this color. Come on, let's say a little bit whiter. It's too, but this one I wanna in a different color. Let's go to the blue and let's go maybe there. It's that simple. Oh, the corner are not really rounded. And instead of 10, I want 20. Okay, guys, it's very simple. And the more you practice, the easier it gets for you to work on Figma, PowerPoint, or any other tool that you want to use. Okay, as I told you, there are plugins for everything. There are plugins. I got jumping in. I got icons. I don't know if it's gonna allow me to open. I got logos. Let me see if open the two at the same time. That would be great. Look, I got logos. What else? I got pictures. If I click in there now, there you go. Look at how simple. And perhaps it's too much, but that's for you to spend a little bit of time looking at. But that's how simple it was for me to create a template in 3 minutes. Now, with 20 minutes, you can create a lot better thing. The first plugin, if you want about, is called, I know, a split shape. That is the one that breaks the shapes. A split shape. Okay, but anyway, if anyone want to know a bit of funny plugins and for color palette and everything, please send me a direct message in LinkedIn, and I will happy to pass you a few plugins about it. But the same can be done in PowerPoint. And the Figma I am using is the free one. I don't need. I have a copy one, okay, a paid one, but I for my personal and business. Okay, this one is free. It doesn't cost you anything. And once you have decided, but that's how I want to, you can export and you export SVG. Okay, and when it is exported, let me now start sharing if I know how to. And I'm gonna open another one if I can open this one now. I'm gonna do the same than before. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna put. Okay, here it go. Ready? That one, share. Okay, and when you have your template done, you just load it in Power BI. You come to the page, Canva background, load the image. That is an intro page. Okay, template one, that will take you to the first page. They will take you to the second page. I haven't had time to prepare it. This will take you to the third page as a navigation. Okay, and remember, you load it here and always fit. Okay, there is always small variation, not much, but small variation. But look at how now everything starts looking a bit different, guys. Yeah, that took me 5 minutes to create. It didn't took me any longer. If you do it with more time, you can prepare a fantastic, good-looking, and simple background. Remember, the icons, I will not bring the icon with the template. Neither this. I will prepare them in Figma, export as a PNG, and I will load, okay, the icons here. Why? Because the moment they are fixed. What do I need to do for this to work? I need to add a button. Yes. So that for me is silly. I just bring the icon, okay, and I put it there. Or you just insert a button, blank button, a blank button. You bring it here. You do that more or less. Button style, get the border off, and now you have not the icon. Where is the border? Border there, and now you have a button that have an action. Up to you, but very simple. And now that look different, even if you number or you think that the information you are presenting is not the best, it actually gives you a better chance because the report looked good. And when the report looked good, it worked better. Believe me. Just because it looked good, it worked better because it's easier for me as an user to consume. Okay? So let's go to template 2. Look, a different one. Next and KPI with colors, title, whatever you put, 3 KPI cards, some filters, some whatever you want to put in there, 4 mini KPI, whatever. I'm going to say whatever a lot today. Okay? But that's how simple. Another one. Okay, you go filter, you go search. I think there is a visual for that. Search button in there. You go 1, 2, 3, 4 KPI, 3 little donut chart or column chart per week or per day of the week. Okay, a small table, a line chart, and a couple other things. Look, they have a couple of points that I made. You go a line chart. You go that is a column. Yeah, that's a column. No, that's a bar chart. Silly things to look. That have the refresh date and that have the time. Very simple to do, and it gave a different touch to your presentation. Okay? Some very silly point. I'm just telling you what time is it now in the UK. That I just open it up and refresh it, because if I come here and I do refresh, that will change. Eh? How you see how the time has changed? That little thing will actually make your report better. And look at how good looking start everything looking, just because you have a background and simple color palette. Remember, your color palette is here in the report. You don't need to go anywhere for a color palette. You got that blue here, you got that purple. You can use PowerToy or any picker, color picker for that, or you can introduce a color palette in your report if you want to and you have the time. And template file, look at that. Dark thing in gray and white, la refresh, the author, number of record, simple table. Look at this little space here for putting some buttons, okay, to change the view, and bookmark, navigation, a link to your website or to your company website, and everything else is decoration. Some text in here, some little donut there, some little whatever here. And as I told you, and I showed you before, it doesn't take 5 minutes. This one took a little bit longer, but I'm not talking more than 20 minutes, half an hour. It's because I have all the little detail. I want to make sure everything is aligned to perfection. Okay, but if you are in a rush, in 5 minutes, you prepare a background template that will enhance your UI and UX experience. If you look at the separations in there, you don't need to worry anymore. Are they 20 pixels separated? They come with the report. Important, and I repeat myself, it's important for you to have an idea beforehand on what you want to bring in your template. Don't do the template first and then do the analysis. Because then when you bring this here, you are forced to have 3 KPIs and 3 whatever is here. Okay? The idea, okay, I want 4 KPIs. I'm going to do a column bar on the right, a table at the bottom, and 2 or 3 donut charts. Okay? So when you have the idea, say, okay, these are the objects in my template that I need. Okay? So that is... For me, I'm going to stop sharing, and that's how simple it was.
Simple as that, right, guys? No, it's not even just about that. And remember, you don't necessarily have to use Figma, right? If you have any previous experience with, let's say, Photoshop, you can use Photoshop. That's fine. If you don't want to use Figma, you're just scared of it, I recommend just try it out. It's not that difficult. It's just the first kind of try is always the most scariest one, right? It's the same as when you were creating the first Power BI report. You didn't want to mess things up, so you were sticking with the basics. It's the same with Figma, right? If you want to create something very basic, everything is there. That's when you want to go into more tricky things. That's when you add plugins and so forth, which actually make your life easier, but it just seems like an extra step. I remember when I started off with creating template layouts, I would call them, is I was watching Adam Sexton's video from Guy in a Cube when they were presenting how to do this with PowerPoint. So I was doing this in PowerPoint when I started off, right? I had no design experience whatsoever. Nowadays, it's a lot easier because we have a designer who does it for me. But prior to that, we were all in the same shoes as most of you are right now, right? It doesn't matter if it's Figma, if it's Photoshop, if it's Paint, I don't care. As long as you just try to create something that allows you to kind of customize things and make it look a little bit nicer. If you don't know how to still create these things in Figma or PowerPoint or whatever it is, right? One of the things that you can definitely do is just try out the amazing Google. There's a lot of different resources where you can find different templates which could work for your reports. The trickiest part about just trying to look for a template is you kind of have to adapt your report to that template. Whereas if you're creating one, you know what kind of layout you're going to have, so you can adapt to it. But if you're looking online, if it has four different, sectors in two different columns and two different rows, well, that's what you have to create. But there are options. Just make sure you kind of spend a little bit extra time, because it definitely makes a visual impact, right? When you open it up, even if Federico didn't have any data, I think you guys can agree with me. Opening up those templates, it feels like, yeah, this is done by somebody who invested time. And that's what most of the time really matters, because even though the data is correct and everything, a lot of people, when they see a report and it just doesn't look good, it's like, yeah, you know, the numbers are probably there, but I'm not going to be using it. You're muted, Federico.
Phone was ringing. Sorry. Sometimes, as I mentioned before, even in the number 100% right, because you cannot look, it doesn't make you look at the report go into forgetting mode. It happened the other way. The report is good looking, and I said before, you want to spend some time doing the filter and playing with the button and seeing everything changing. Okay? So, and what I mentioned before about if it look good, it work better, it's not mine, from Alberto Cairo. And if you know Alberto Cairo, he is one of the most known data visualization experts in the world. So I didn't say that. I invented that. It's from Alberto Cairo. Just because it looked better, it worked better.
It's also one of the reasons why, when you think about these sort of layouts and how you give it to the end user, right? It's all about that end user experience. And somebody also questioned, how do I improve upon UI and UX? Well, one of the things is just providing these sort of templated layouts that they can sort of easily read to and navigate through. The other thing is the visuals you use and how the user can interact with it, which is one of the reasons why, for example, when we at ZoomCharts are developing any of the visuals, there's one particular focus that we do always kind of take into consideration. And that is, we want the user to be able to easily navigate while using the visuals itself. So you know how with native visuals, for example, you have those drop-down buttons, right, to activate it, then you select the slice and so forth. One of the things we do here is we eliminate that step, and we just allow you to directly interact with the slices, to drill down, to focus on what's important, to create a selection on the timeline. So you spend a lot less time trying to figure things out rather than just finding out the actual data that you're trying to focus on. And that's one of those things, right? And when you're trying to create some of the visuals, one of the things that I recommend you to do is, again, the same as with the datasets and everything, just play around with them. You can very easily make very basic concepts. That's all fine and dingly. But if you create something that it looks good and it feels good, trust me, the response from the end user is going to be a lot more positive. Because if you just give them sort of like a two-dimensional chart which represents one particular state, but it's not interactive, you can't really do much with it, well, it feels like an infographic at the end of the day. That's what you want to kind of go away from. Power BI is all about creating not just reports, but interactive reports, right? Where the user can start off with an overview, then he can select a different dimension on different charts to kind of drill down and find that particular bit of information that he's interested in. And that's what we're seeing from a lot of the customers as well, is they're sort of going with that drill down report approach, right? They start with something big just to understand the overall picture, and then they drill down into smaller segments and smaller details about the specifics of the job. So for example, when we have the CRM data set, right? So what are the primary things that we see here? We know that there's a country that we're looking into. There's organization. Organization is a unique value that we're having here, meaning that, well, I can't really filter out by org because there's going to be always just a single line and it's not going to be give me a lot of information, right? So country is something I might be interested in. We have industries, we have agents. So from that perspective, I need to figure out, okay, what are the main sort of points of entry that I want to showcase to the user? Is it the sales based on the agent? Is it the sales based on the stage? Is it the sales based on the industry? What is it? If I don't know, then by watching one of our previous webinars, you're going to notice, or checking out some of the samples online, you notice a lot of people are using field parameters, right? use those within a visual and allow the user to determine what is the metric that he's looking at, or in this case, what is the dimension that they're looking at. There's a lot of different ways on how you can make the same exact layout work for different scenarios. It's all about just putting them together. So for example, one other thing that I wanted to kind of showcase to you is, and this is one of the mistakes that I actually saw happening a lot in one of the previous challenges, and that is be careful whenever you apply visual level filters. Be very careful with this. And the reason why I'm saying this is this. In both of these visuals, I'm using the same column as a value column. See, I'm using just sum of deal value, which is just deal value. Same here, same goes here. Exactly the same column. Here, I don't have any additional filters applied. As for the timeline, I excluded one of the stages, which is blank, right? The reason why I'm doing this is because if I have all of them, you can see that a lot of the progress here, we have one row in the tooltip which has nothing, which means that it doesn't have a stage, so I don't really necessarily want to showcase it here. Okay, so I remove this. And what happens afterwards is, okay, this looks a little bit better, but now, if I, for example, highlight February, we can see that the total, for example, number of deals here is the total sum, sorry, for the deal value is 35K. Suddenly you look at the map and you see that one point is already 44K. What the hell is happening? And the reason for that is quite simple. On this visual, you're filtering out or excluding one particular category. In this visual, you're not doing that. Even though we're using the same value, these filters, they really matter. So one of the things I want you guys to take a look at when you're creating additional measures, or if you're not doing is, whenever you are creating them, create them to be inclusive in a sense that you can cross-filter them with multiple dimensions. That you're not creating just basically as a summarized table, right? It's not just one particular number. You want to have a number which can be further digested and split down into segments into whatever it is. Or if you are excluding something in a visual, let's say I actually would want to have a visual like this and I want to have a sum of deals without the blank values, then make sure that the measure itself excludes those blank values in every single visual. Just be careful on how you put this information out there. The other thing, from the dataset itself, you're going to notice that we have two columns which are at the end of the dataset almost. So date, deal value, and probability, right? Probability is going to be as a whole number by default. Remember that if you want to convert this into a percentage, it cannot be a whole number. It needs to be a decimal number. Because otherwise, what's going to happen? If I just simply add it to a column based on org name, there we go. Convert this into a table. That's fine. So this is the original column. This is a measure I created. If I take the original column and say, hey, I just format this as a percentage, right? Because it feels like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. If you click on that, it's going to multiply by 100. Not really what I was looking for. So multiple ways on how you could deal with this. You could deal with this through the Power Query. And in the Power Query, you basically have a step where you divide the value by 100 to get to the percentage value. Or you can also just simply create a measure, which takes the same exact value, divides it by 100, and returns a decimal number, which then I format as a percentage. So if I put it right next to it, seems fine.
You go summarize. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a sum there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean here in the okay, it's okay now.
Oh, here.
Yeah, in the other values, yeah. You have soon that there is to give you 100%, no?
No. It's
okay. It's
you're
coming
giving me
down.
all
Yeah,
of them.
no, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
It's
My
just
bad.
distorting it. No, it's
Yeah.
all good, man. But yeah, that's another thing to kind of take a look at. And the reason why I was talking about the probability and the deal value is whenever it comes to sales, right, you have these stages in the Excel file, which explain to you that even though an opportunity has been identified, it doesn't mean that 100% probability that we will close the deal, right? So the way that probability works with the values is you typically multiply the value with the probability. So you get a value called weighted value. You can call it however you want to. It's just what I've been kind of have had in previous reports. In other organizations, this number is called differently. In some cases it's called the probable value. There's different naming for it, right? But the same idea applies to it. It's the value multiplied by the probability percentage. So that gives you an estimate of, okay, even if it's 100%, we're going to get 100% of the value. If it's like at 50%, we're only going to get half of the value. And the reason for this is when you're looking at forecasts, you want to actually understand what is sort of closer to the real number that we're looking at. Because you might have, 10 different deals, which all of are 10K closing up in the next 3 months. But if their probability is like 10, 20%, you're not really looking at 100K. You're looking at maybe 20, 30K real expectation for it. That's why you have the probability. So just pay attention to the columns that you have within the data set itself, right? Yeah, anything?
There are two questions. I'm
Sure.
going to go for the shorter one first from Angel Lucero. Actual close date, how would you treat the missing values? Good question.
So if actual close date is not pasted in the column, there might be one of two things. Either the deal is not physically closed, so it means the money has not been received. Because remember, in the Excel file, one of the stages is 1, and 1 stage doesn't mean that the deal has actually been closed. It just means that we and the customer have signed off on things, but we haven't received the money. And trust me, in business, it's very important to actually note down the moment when you put down the money, because papers is one thing, but the money is the king.
Would you replace these? No, because there is nothing you can enter in there to actually, because they are going to show us a blank.
Yeah.
We have a problem that we have a number of dates in there, a number of deals that they have this blank. Would you make any assumption about, okay, I'm going to put the day something, I don't know. I think sometimes and I remember having that problem, is that I didn't like to see empty row. Like, what happened here?
Yeah. So what I would probably do, that's what I typically do if I don't have any additional information. If I have somebody to ask, I would ask, what am I supposed to do with these ones? Like, how do I visualize them? If I don't have that information, what I would do, I would create a qualification column, essentially, which would return one of two results. If there is a date in the actual close date, it's qualified. If it doesn't have, it's unqualified.
Unqualified. Okay.
So, and for that, I would just create either, again, a field parameter or just a single slicer that allows me to kind of switch whether to include these deals or exclude these deals.
Okay.
And if I don't have any information, I would do that. If I have somebody to ask, or if they give me something in specific, then I would follow their logic. But other than that, remember that there's a reason why we give you sometimes these sort of messy data sets. Yeah, because you have to figure out what to do with them. And one thing I can definitely tell you, there isn't one correct answer on how to handle this. We want you to just be creative about how you do this.
And that was my point. Angel, you take your assumption, you decide what to do with that. Do I use the same date as expected, close date, or do I say plus 20? It's up to you. The only thing you have to let me know in your report is, for this actual close with no actual close date, I did this. And that will be good enough for us, because that's what you're going to find in many, many real cases, missing data and dirty data. It's up to you, Angel. Lo que tú quieras.
Yeah. And in this case, for example, if we're looking, we can see that the deal has been qualified, but it doesn't have a stage. So I'm assuming the deal is not closed. So there's just a qualification for it. So there physically cannot be an actual close date, because there's nothing, it's still in the process somewhere. The fact that we're missing a stage is concerning, because if it's qualified, why don't we have a stage for it, right? But then again, it's a question for another day and for another department usually. And the one thing I can definitely tell you is, even though you think organizations have CRMs that everything has been updated, up to date, everything is working exactly like you want to. It's not. Especially with things like, for example, expected close dates. You're gonna find a lot of cases where you have actual close dates and expected close dates, and where you have, for example, a difference of expected close date is in December, but we actually closed it in, I don't know, March or February. That can happen. Because when the deal started off, we had some initial talks and I put the expected close date there. Then afterwards, I'm following through the deal. I'm, working on the deal, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the agent has updated in the process. It's how
Correct.
things are in reality.
And
So,
there is a
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. There is another question from Ananya
Sure.
Mishra. I read your question. You are making quite the same point than Angel. What happened with this data that doesn't match up? In my thinking, your thinking is not matching up.
Yeah.
I posted something before in the chat about some assumption you can make, but if not, we are giving you the free hand to say, okay, I'm gonna treat these values this way, and this is going to be my approach, because there is no a single answer.
Yeah.
Okay, it will take me some time to study, to see everything that you point in your question, to actually come back to a good reply. So in this case, on this occasion, I prefer for you to say, okay, Federico told me and Abel told me, we can make some presumptions about this and to work it out this way. As far as you document, and when you tell me that is what I did with this issue I encountered in the data, we will be most happy.
Yeah. Because one of the things is you have to figure things out. Not everything is going to be given to you straight away. It's just what it is, unfortunately.
No, believe me, you're going to find this mistake. I work in a real case, and I had the delivery day is after or before the sending day. So I delivered the package today, but the send day is on Saturday. So no, if I deliver it today, it cannot be that we are sending on Saturday. It's already there. Okay, but these inconsistencies happen
Yeah.
very, very often. Very, very often. So don't be afraid that it's going to happen all the time.
Yep. And I just read from our organizer team, Federico, you had an announcement you wanted to make regarding a giveaway?
Okay, yes. So those people, what we want to know is, Sabine will post a form about the webinar. We want to know what you like, what do you like, what we want to talk about, how to improve what we are doing together. And if you fill out the form, enter your name and your email address and complete the form, I think there are 3 or 4 questions, no more than that, you can win an ebook from PAC that will be free and sent to you. It's an ebook via email, and there are 5 different categories of book you can pick. So free book just by completing a form. Okay, free PAC ebook just by completing the form.
Yep.
Okay.
And Sabina is going to paste it in the chat in just a second, so make sure you fill it in. And it also just helps us to understand if there's anything that you are missing, guys, right? Because the last thing...
Free book. Carry on talking. You have to talk over me now. I'm selling the book.
Okay, that's
free
the end of the background announcement. Because the main thing, trust me and Federico, we don't want to do these sessions if you don't get any value from it, right? The main and whole idea about this is if you're getting value from this, if you're seeing that this is, something that you're learning from and everything, we're more than happy to keep doing them and finding different ways or areas to talk about. If there's no benefit, we would much rather just sit back and drink a beer.
And within this book, you have Microsoft Power Platform Architecture, Mastering Microsoft Power BI, Expert Data Modeling with Power BI, String DAX. I know a lot of people like that. And Learning Progress SQL for those that like, you got it there. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that was Sabine. Well done. She's quick. We love Sabine. Yeah,
She's fast.
yeah, a little bit, not much. We love you a little bit, Sabine.
But yeah, guys.
Yep,
So
it's a free book, guys.
you can see that's not a lot of things we ask from you, right? That's just 3 questions.
And if you complete the phone, you have a 25% chance of winning the challenge too.
Yeah,
Don't tell
that's what we
anybody.
agreed
Don't tell
upon.
anybody.
Yep.
Don't tell
Automatically, you get a
anybody.
multiplier.
Yep. By the end of the day, I don't even to judge the challenge. I just declare you the winner, and that's it.
Yep. And yeah,
Okay.
remember, guys, if you want to participate in the giveaway, make sure you leave down your email so we can get in touch with you, because the survey itself is anonymous, right? We don't know who responded with what. So if you're participating in giveaway, just leave us your email address so we can reach out to you and we can, send you the information if you are the winner. But yeah, so that's one part of it. As for the time, we don't really have a lot more left. So a few other things that I wanted to mention is one of the things that you're going to notice, for example, whenever you basically come across this one, right? If you write a CRM dashboard, in a lot of these images, at some point, you're going to find this beauty right here, which is called a funnel chart, right? The funnel chart is a very core visual in a lot of the sales analysis because it allows you to understand of how much had come in initially and how much ended up coming for us at the very end, right? That's the whole idea of the funnel. So what I want you to take a look at when you're doing this is make sure you go through the data dictionary and you understand all the statuses and stages. Because creating a funnel chart might seem like it's as easy as this, right? I think did we had a funnel chart? I think we had one. No?
It's not. I don't
It's a
know.
custom one, right? I thought we had one from
The
Microsoft.
furniture by Power. No, that is.
I think there was one. No? Am I
I don't know.
missing
I
something? There,
don't. I
there we
don't.
go. I'm just blind.
That is a. That's not. That is the hierarchy. I don't know how it's called. That called a furniture.
Yeah, I think it's in. Yeah,
Uh,
funnel. So the first thought process would be, for example, to do something like this, right? When you're just going by stages. Okay. But if you also go by status, you just have to make sure and understand that the values, for example, that you're putting in, or if you're counting things like deal counts, that the numbers you see here make sense. Just apply a little bit of logic thinking, right? Because if you think about it, everything that is in the first step, it means that it is physically every single deal that has ever come to us. This number cannot be smaller than anything that comes afterwards. Money wise, sure, there might be a possibility. Although, no, it's not really possible because funnel goes downwards. So just be careful whenever you're creating these, to make sure that the visuals makes actual logic, right? It's one of the tricky things about data visualization. Just dropping things in and hoping it works doesn't really always cover the case. So you have to apply a little bit of creative think or critical thinking to it to make sure it actually makes sense. But yeah, other than that, I would say for this data set, definitely a timeline visual is something that I would be looking for because there are time dimensions that I want to be understanding, like how is my timeline looking as of expected dates. So when I'm expecting to close dates, how is the actual closing dates working, and how are they comparing to each other? For example, which sales agent has the highest sales amount? Which were the, let's say, the industries that I'm looking into. So there are quite a few different sort of areas that you can take a look into. And the map, sure, you can also use the map and play around with, if you guys remember on the map, we have this max clustering zoom level where you can go from a cluster down to a split node. So you could also play around with that. And for example, just to make it a little bit more interesting, also add a little bit of, let's say, the flag of each country or something like that. Again, it's completely up to you to figure out what exactly you want to use here. Did you use shapefile for the map? In this case, I did, but to be fair, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend using the built-in shapefile, primarily because it's for the whole world, right? So what's going to happen is if I select a country that doesn't have any data, this is the end result. This is not something you want to have for your end users. So most likely what I would probably do is try to find a different shapefile somewhere online or create one myself. Or if you don't want to do that whatsoever, and let's say you hear the word shape layer and you're like, screw that, I don't know what it means. I don't want to even know what it means. So what you can do is you can physically use the lasso tool and just draw. Right now it's not going to be perfect. Trust me, I know. I'm just showcasing an idea, right? You can draw around a specific country and just leave it as one of the shapes. Go ahead, find the next country. I don't know. There we go. Start. It's not going to be an ideal shape. I know, guys. But hey,
Oh my God, you're a terrible drawing, man.
hey, man. Now you guys know why we have a designer. So simple as that, right? You kind of have a very rudimentary shapes, and you can do this with a little bit more detail and not spend like 3 seconds, but actually spend a minute or two to draw the shape. But you can draw your own shapes. You don't necessarily need to have a shape layer. You can utilize also the lasso shapes. Just one thing to remember, whenever you do create lasso shapes, for the sake of all that's holy, remember to save the report. Because if you're not going to save the report when the shapes are drawn, these shapes are not going to be there next time you open up the report. This is something to remember.
Time.
Yes. 1 minute over. I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, guys. So I hope that this session was interesting for you, that you actually managed to hear something new and interesting, especially I think from what Federico mentioned about the layouts and showing how Figma works, and that's a very good practical tip. So we expect now to see a lot of templates being used. There's no other way around it.
And please keep posting questions in the group, and if the people who ask questions to you still have not something clear or unclear about it, please send me a direct message in LinkedIn, and I try to clarify as best as I can. I'm not very familiar with the dataset neither, so I would probably have to do some consultation, but please ask me.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck. And I'm looking forward to seeing your submissions.